Graphing quadratics. So we've talked about factoring these quadratics, and as a recap, quadratics are when we have the x squared. Now we're going to talk about graphing them. So I have up here in orange the website to get to your graphing calculator. I suggest bookmarking that on your computer because we are going to use this quite a bit. So here's your website if you haven't bookmarked it already. And go ahead and write down the example problem that we have. So x squared plus 6x plus 5. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to Desmos. Maybe. There we go. All right, and once you are in Desmos, go ahead and type in the first problem. So we have y equals x, and then squared, you can either hit shift number 6, or if you hit your keypad in the bottom left corner, you'll also find the squared buttons here. So x squared, and then plus 6x plus 5. This was our first example. Okay. So it automatically graphs it for you, and it does give you a few random points, these gray circles that you can click on. I'm going to unclick them because my suggestion for this when graphing is to first find the vertex, which is that corner, though not really a corner, that turning point. And for us, I know it's hard to see. Let me zoom out. It is at -3, -4. Okay, so I first found my vertex. Now, to get the other points that I am going to plot, you don't have to, but just be aware that this is how I suggest doing it. I'm going to go to my wheel, and then I'm going to hit my table. Now, it automatically pops up with some numbers, but we can change them. And I'm actually going to start by changing this middle x value to what my vertex was, which was -3. And then it pops up to -4. Then I'm going to pick two numbers that come before it. So I would change this to -4, change this to -5. And it gives me new points, which you can now see on your graph. All right, then I'm going to go two numbers after it. So -2, -1. But the key was to get that vertex in the middle. And see how the numbers kind of repeat, -3, -3, 0, 0. And then I have 5 good numbers, 5 good points to plot here. And you can click on them as well, or at least hover over them. Sometimes you can click on them. All right, then I would transfer those points to my paper. So I'm going to go back to my notes. And I've actually already graphed it. So those are my 5 points I got from Desmos. I connected it. It's not a V. This is a U shape, and that's very important. Do not graph a V. V's are absolute values. So I have my U-shaped graph with 5 points here. Then I can start filling in my chart. Now, we know from Desmos we got the vertex, and that was at the point -3, -4. Which I have here, my vertex. Axis of symmetry is something new. And what that is, it's asking for what line can we draw and have it be symmetrical on each side. So if I was to draw a line through my vertex, notice that each side is symmetrical. One jump, I hit the next dot. One jump, I hit the next point. 2 jumps, point. 2 jumps, point. So this green arrowed line represents the axis of symmetry. It is a vertical line, and since it's a vertical line, you do need x equals, and it's passing through -3. The shortcut is whatever your x value of your vertex, that's going to be your axis of symmetry, but you need the x equals there for sure. Compression and stretch we don't have to worry about this time. I'm not going to make you guys do that. Now, horizontal and vertical shift. Think back to Unit 1 when we talked about parent functions. And I said parent functions always start at the origin. So what horizontal and vertical shift are asking, how did the vertex move away from the origin? So again, my new vertex is at -3, -4. So horizontally, we went left 1, 2, 3. So I would say we went left 3. And then vertically, we went down 1, 2, 3, 4. So our vertex moved left 3, down 4 from the origin. X-intercepts and Y-intercepts, those are really easy because we can get those from Desmos. So I'm going to click back to Desmos. And you can see I have my X-intercepts already clicked. They are -5, 0, and 1, 0. And then we can also click and get our Y-intercept where it crosses the Y-axis at 0, 5. So again, those are really easy in Desmos. You just have to click on the points. X-intercepts where it touches your X-axis. Y-intercept where it touches your Y-axis. So I'm going to jump back here. All right, so my X-intercepts, I had 2, and it was -5, 0, and -1, 0. And my Y-intercept was 0, 5. Now we're going back through some review. Domain, range, increasing, decreasing, and of course our end behaviors. So domain, remember, is our X values. How far left and how far right did the graph go? Well, this graph is going to continue to go to the left, which was -infinity, and it's going to continue to go to the right, which was +infinity. So -infinity to +infinity using parentheses. Range are my Y values, how far up and how far down. So remember, the farthest down we can go is -infinity. Farthest up we can go is +infinity. So my purple graph stops at my vertex, and the Y value of my vertex is -4. So the farthest down this graph went is -4. Since we have our arrows, it's going to continue to go up forever. So it's a +infinity. Infinity gets a parenthesis. -4 is a number, so that gets a bracket. Increasing and decreasing. I know this one is tough. So again, I'm going to get my star out. And we can go through this. Remember, increasing and decreasing, we only care about the X values. All right, so we're only going to be looking along the X-axis. So if I start all the way on the left, which is -infinity, because that arrow is going to keep going to the left. So from -infinity to my vertex, I decreased. So decreasing from -infinity to the X value of my vertex, which was -3. Which then means I'm going to increase from the X value of my vertex, -3, to the other side, which is +infinity. Both of those get parentheses because at the vertex you are neither increasing or decreasing. If you put brackets, that's fine. Then finally our end behavior. So as X approaches +infinity, so if I'm going on the positive X side, my arrow is pointing up, so +infinity. As X approaches -infinity, so -infinity is the left side, my arrow is still pointing up, so +infinity. And I know that was a lot. We're going to do a couple more problems. So here's our next problem. Go ahead and copy that down. And then we are going to switch to Desmos just to practice graphing that again. So switching over to Desmos, I'm now going to type it in. So -1/2 parentheses X plus 5 squared, and then plus 3. And again, it does give you automatically some points to plot. Now these are decimals, which is a little tough, but that's okay. You can also do the, once you find the vertex, because that's the most important, you can hit the wheel, hit the table, and then change the vertex to -5, which was our middle point. And then we can go 2 above, so -6 and -7, and then 2 below, -4, -3. You don't have to do this. This is just what I suggested. And then our points pop up on our graph. All right, so if we go back to the notes, I'm going to go ahead and graph that. So here's my graph with those points. Now again, the vertex was the most important point. So we found that to be -5, +3. Axis of symmetry goes through the vertex, and it is a vertical line. So since it is a vertical line, it's going to be x equals, and it's the x value of my vertex. So x equals -5. Compression and stretch, you don't have to worry about. Horizontal and vertical shift, it's asking where did my vertex move, which I just plotted in blue, from the origin, which was 0, 0. So horizontally, I went left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So left 5. And then vertically, I went up 1, 2, 3. So from the origin, my vertex moved left 5, up 3. Again, x and y intercepts we get from Desmos. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back to that. So my x-intercepts, where they cross the x-axis. So I have -7.449, which I'm going to round to -7.5. And I have -2.551, which I'm going to round to -2.6. And then my y-intercept, I'm going to have to zoom out to see it. So zoom, 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 and then you can click and drag and move this graph. Where it crosses the y-axis is at 0, -9.5. All right, so now that I have those, I'm going to go back to my notes. So again, my x-intercepts, they were at, and I rounded, so -7.5, 0, and -2.6, 0. My y-intercept was 0, -9.5. Domain and range, let's review. So domain's asking my x values. Remember, -infinity is to the left, +infinity is to the right. The graph is going to keep going to the left and keep going to the right. So -infinity to +infinity. Range are my y values. So how far up and down. -infinity is down, +infinity is up. We always talk about how far down first. So my arrows are pointing down. So this means we're going to go to -infinity, the farthest up this goes to is my vertex, and the y value of my vertex is 3. So we get a parenthesis, and then 3 gets a bracket. And finally, for this one, we have increasing and decreasing. I'm going to get my star. All right, so again, we only care about the x values for both of these, for increasing and decreasing. So we're only talking about the numbers on the x-axis. So starting on the left, so from -infinity to my vertex, I increased. So I'm increasing from -infinity to the x value of my vertex, which is -5, which means I am decreasing from my x value of my vertex to the other infinity. So you can see that, so I'm here, and I'm decreasing, I'm going down the graph. And finally, we have our end behavior. So as x approaches positive infinity, so the positive side of x is, if this graph was to keep going, it would be pointing down, so negative infinity. Same for the other side, it is pointing down, negative infinity. Okay, so we have one more example. And if you want, you can go ahead and pause the video and try this on your own. I am going to work through this one. I'm probably going to move a little bit quicker as we work through this one. All right, with this last example, go ahead and try graphing this in Desmos on your own. Go ahead and pause the video for that. So once you've unpaused the video, I have this one graphed, and I have my 5 points. Now my vertex was a decimal. And I will switch back to Desmos to show you. So again, my vertex is at negative 1.5, negative 6.25. And decimals are okay with graphs. So my vertex occurs at negative 1.5 and negative 6.25. All right, which means my axis of symmetry is going to be x equals the x value of my vertex, negative 1.5. We're not going to worry about compression and stretch. My horizontal shift is asking, how did my vertex move from my origin? So my vertex went to the left 1.5. So we went left 1.5, and then we went down 6.25. My x and y intercepts I get from Desmos, so I'm going to jump back there, and you can see they automatically pop up here. I'm going to unclick my vertex just so we're not confused. So I have x-intercepts at negative 4, 0, and 1, 0. My y-intercept is at 0, negative 4. So x-intercepts is at negative 4, 0, and 1, 0, and then 0, negative 4 was my y-intercept. Domain is asking about my x values. So again, to the left is negative infinity, to the right is positive infinity. And this graph is going to touch them all. So it goes from negative infinity to positive infinity. Range is my y values. So the farthest down this y value goes is my vertex. And so the y value of my vertex is negative 6.25, comma, the farthest up this graph goes because of the arrows is infinity. The number gets a bracket, infinity gets a parenthesis. All right, now with increasing and decreasing, I'm going to get my star back out. And so we're starting on the left because all we care about are the x values. So negative infinity because of this arrow. And we decrease to the vertex. Again, only caring about the x values. So we decreased from negative infinity to the x value of my vertex, which is negative 1.5. And then we increase from that negative 1.5 to the other side, which is positive infinity. So we increase from negative 1.5, which is the vertex, to positive infinity. And then finally, as x approaches positive infinity, so as I go down the positive numbers of x, my graph will continue to increase. So it's pointing up, we get positive infinity. As x approaches negative infinity, my graph is still pointing up, positive infinity. So the graphing was a little bit of review as far as domain, range, increasing, decreasing, in behavior, x and y intercepts. We did have something a little new in the vertex and the axis of symmetry, and then a slight review with our transformations, with the shifts. So try reviewing this, and if you need to try some on your own, just reach out. I can give you some more practice problems. But feel free to reach out to me if you do have any questions at all.